Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Let's see if we can get some live action going on here. Have a few seconds of delay, so I'm going to be testing that out. Sounds good. All right, so I was going to give it a few minutes. I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my through hiking experience on the Appalachian Trail for anybody that wanted to hop in and check it out and go through some of the dialogue that was my experience. So if you just give me 1 minute. All right, and we seem to be frozen right now. Interesting. And that seems to work. We will see. Alrighty. Okay, I think I'm set up now. And it shows I'm frozen again. Oh wait, no, I'm moving now. I just can't be too slow, or too fast, I guess. It upsets the system. Okay, power that down. And shall we start from the beginning? Go back and back and back and back. So I'm going to be using the Instagram as a point of reference, since that's where a majority of my photos were left. Any other questions or dialogue anybody wants to strike up during this? It's purely question and answer. I'm mostly just testing this for YouTube integrity in the event that I start streaming again. This just gives me a chance to relive some of my old memories. So, shall we begin? My name is Jeremy Gottschalk. I'm the Barefoot Hiker. This summer, I decided to hike for 6 months on the Appalachian Trail. It's 2,200 miles, 2,189.8 to be exact. I figured this would be a great experience for me. I'm an avid hiker, having started the Barefoot Hikers, coincidentally where I got my trail name from. Many of you already know that. When you go onto the trail, you're given a trail name based off of something that you do, a story, a significant event. I was very fortunate in that I'd spent so much time hiking in Hawaii, helping out with search and rescue, that it just stuck. So when someone asked me, oh, do you have a trail name? I said, yeah, absolutely. This was the first picture. It's of Springer Mountain, approximately 30-35 minute drive from Atlanta. Just getting started in itself as a task. I'll take a few steps back and say that prior to the trail, I'd been training avidly. I'd worked out of largely just going to places like Planet Fitness, and every day, excuse me, every day being at the gym, 3, 4, 5 hours a day. I was still unemployed. I'd separated from my ex. We are now divorced now. I'd spent a lot of my time really just focusing on my fitness, getting set up, getting ready. Yeah. So I took to the trails out here in Florida, which, if you've ever been on the Florida Trail out here, it's not comparable. You cannot compare the Appalachian Trail, you can't compare it to the Florida Trail, to the AZT, to any of the national scenic trails. There are 13 of them total. Those include the PCT and the CDT. Along with the AT, those three make up what's called the Triple Crown, kind of a coveted accomplishment. 3 very difficult hikes, all over 2,000 miles long. On March 20th, I originally set out to meet up with a girl named Atlas, who is continuing to hike even now. She got off trail early and had to come back, and now is re-walking the section that she missed. I actually had the fortune of meeting her at the top of the summit on Katahdin. So beginning the trail, I was already a week late from my intended start date. I had issues arise with my Veterans Administration. There were complications with my medical appointments and my disability rating claims, so I didn't start until afterwards. At the time, I was ecstatic and just extremely nerve-wracked about getting out there. I just wanted to be on the trail. What did this mean particularly for me was that I could just get started. I wanted to start because I had the aspirations, the belief that this trail was going to fix me, essentially. A lot of mental stress from my time in the military. I served 11 years in the Navy and gotten out in January of 2016. While that didn't necessarily pan out, which I'll describe later, the trail itself was everything I could have ever hoped it would be. So here's a picture overlooking Amicalola Falls. It's an unofficial start, but a 9-mile section prior to Springer Mountain, which is officially where the Appalachian Trail starts in Georgia. And here's a photo of me taken March 29th, 28th. As you can see, the trail follows the Benton McKay for a long way through a lot of North Carolina and Tennessee. It's a pretty incredible experience to be able to go out there and see so many people. That was one of the biggest surprises for me, was there were so many people hiking the AT this year, and I made a lot of good friends. Well, speaking of friends, my first trail family started within 2 days of starting. When I had made it originally my first day, pushed way, way, way too hard. 17 miles. And that's not a good pace for anyone. There's a lot of up and downs. My body was already wrecked. Within the first couple of days, I had spent a week out in the wilderness in the Juniper area in Florida. And it just wasn't a good idea to be pushing that hard. My body started to feel it within a week. I ended up losing sight of my trail family, which pictured here on Preacher Rock. Just a few miles from the start. So we've got Planner over on the left, Hannah. We met up on the second day, along with the section hiker Nathan, who I'd like to still call Spank Tank. And he continued with us all the way just before the North Carolina-Georgia border, which was a great group. We also had Lumbus and Strider, both named from Lord of the Rings characters. One was an avid Lord of the Rings enthusiast, so it was pretty easy to come up with a name for them. Lumbus ended up finishing. Strider would quit within the next week of us starting. That's how difficult it is out here. Here, right in the middle, we have Athena, or Goddess, as her trail name came to be. Goddess Who Dances with Wolves, I think, was her complete name. Really sweet kid. Her aspirations was to walk all the way to Maine and then to her house, which I believed was right off of the Canadian border. So she did complete the trail. As you can see, there are those green, bright neon Crocs. It's quite the commodity on the trail. Many, many hikers use Crocs for town or camp shoes due to their durability and how light they were. The yellow mattress that you see the individual on the right wearing or sitting on is the Thermarest Neolite XL. I ended up buying that after both my pad, the pad that Athena, once again in the orange, is sitting on, just did not offer the kind of support that I was hoping for. So you think that most of the time we're out in the woods. It's just not the case. A lot of the times we would end up going to hotels, lodges, like this one on Lake Chatouche, and would group together. At any time, 3 to 8 people could cram into a room, depending on where we were. and get these spectacular views. Particularly, you remember especially the food. There's a barbecue joint right down the hill from this hotel that just knocked your socks off, especially when you're starting to develop the first early stages of hiker hunger, which if you've ever had hiker hunger, you'll eat 6 to 8 people's worth of food and still be hungry. 4,800 to 6,000 calories you lose every day hiking 15 to 20 miles. But you definitely remember the food, at least I do. There's a photo of me on standing in a mountain. Dealt with a lot of storms, actually. There's a story I wanted to tell whoever was online. I call it the 4 or 5 peaks. 4 peaks. Yes. So my experience with at least 4 peaks, we'll count through and see if we can come up with each of them. But I had a major weather condition on every single one of the first groupings of Georgia mountaintops. So Sassafras, it was 98 degrees, extremely hot, blazing. This was on April 2nd or April 3rd. There was no water anywhere. They went to Hawk Mountain, and we were warned there by ridge runners, do not continue if you don't have enough water, because there's just nothing for a 9-mile section. Mind you, I was still blowing 17-mile days, so I didn't really think it was going to be much of an issue. But it was sparse. So we had a drought on Sassafras Mountain. Next, we had Blood Mountain, which was a tornado warning. Trey Mountain, snow. And I'm going to have to jump offline here for a little bit. So, hold on, guys. Ian. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm live. I can stay on. Nope, I'm still here. So, just disregard the brother walking in the background. So anyway, so Trey Mountain, snow. Who would have guessed it? We'd already had multiple instances where people had started early. They tried to do the March 15th to beat the bubble. They were the pre-bubble bubble. And during the 7 bubbles that we had, 6 major bubbles. The last one was a 7, was kind of the injured and the really slow party folks. But I'll get into bubbles a little bit later if anybody is curious. It's really bright right there, so I'm wondering if I can see if I can move the camera here just a little bit.
Do you want me to close the blinds?
Oh, now I'm blocked out. No. Okay, I'm back. So Vicky saying congrats on finishing again. Are you going to keep the beard? My original intention was to keep the beard strictly for cosplaying Tormund of Game of Thrones. So I hope that answers the question. Afterwards, I don't know. I'm probably going to trim it up. Boom. I've got some messages going off on my phone right now. But, yeah, I kind of like the idea of having the ghastly man bun. So I didn't get the chance to really grow out a lot of facial hair over the last 11 years I was in the service. So that's kind of what I'm working with right now. So, I have a pretty gnarly man bun here. So I'm going to pop out my chat here so I can get a better view of it. Oops. Okay, awesome. Now, Vicky, did you finish the hike? And it's always a question I like to ask people, especially if they have trail names and I don't remember. I can relate. Husband can't grow one since he was in the service as well. It was a pleasure to serve. Just recently dealing with some of the, we'll call them delays in employment after coming back. I've been back for almost 3 weeks. Had a lot of issues trying to find a decent job. I've been sitting on working at Starbucks or Walmart or any of the places that I really just don't feel are a good fit for me right now. But let me, I'm going to lessen the light here just a little bit so I can get, so it's not as harsh. Excuse me. So if anything, it's just going to shoot me like a laser beam now. Okay. Do I need to kneel or slink down again? I don't think that did anything. There's a cat toy right there. Sorry about the commotion, guys. Or should I say, ladies? Well, if anything, I have really pronounced blue eyes now. So I loved trail magic. It's one of the best parts of the experience of being on the AT. I think in contrast to the CDT and the PCT, the AT was all about community. In this case, pictured here is the red truck, green truck. The two individuals really showed some southern hospitalities. It was packed. We had at any point 40, 50 hikers there, community members. We also had the GAG, the Georgia Adventurers Group on Meetup, decided to get together, and they were located right past the first major stream crossing. So within the first day, they were my first trail magic. Coincidentally had a DC, which was Dancing Crane, and Wild Child, who both ended up hiking southbound this year. So I got to meet them, stay in contact with them, and as you can see, I got to pin my name on the shirt there. I guess you can't see that. Oh. So one of the things I still have to do is to send out thank you letters. Some of the trail magic that I got was this beanie, which I absolutely love. I still have it. I was wearing it yesterday. In this case, it was the Bethlehem First United Methodist Church of Georgia. Had a bin, and they just dropped the bin right in front of us. And we're just like, hey, take a hat, keep onto it. I had no idea that I'd be carrying it through the entirety of my trip. Just a couple of ounces, but obviously it sure panned out. As you can see, my beard wasn't as pronounced there. So, oh look, the sun went away. So within the 11th day, so you get into towns. I need to move. Okay. All right, here's explains it right here. Sussex Mountain was not 90 degrees, it was 86 degrees. So it's a drought. Blood Mountain, we had rain and tornado warnings, 40-mile-per-hour winds. Tray Mountain was snow and flurries, and then way above had fire. So this picture was kind of supposed to encapsulate the burning that was going on just south of us. I actually got onto the trail about 20 minutes before they closed it due to the fires. So it's pretty lucky. After sleeping there in the morning, I woke up and walked out, and after going down a little ways, reaching the top of way above and then descending down, came across areas that were cordoned off that said, burn areas, or inside that burn area. So it's unnerving. And then after reaching Albert Mountain, I could see the fires again from the distance. So this photo is from what restaurants along the trail look like. So essentially, this is the Nantahala Outdoor Center. I think we were still in Georgia at this time, maybe North Carolina. But yeah, gear is normally just stowed outside. You go in there, you eat. I remember staying here several days, soaking my feet. I'd done a 28-mile day from Franklin, North Carolina to Nantahala, so it was North Carolina. So it was 28 miles. I got in at 10:30 at night, had no idea where to sleep, so I slept underneath a bridge. So, you make do. I was a troll for a day. But had a lot of fun there. Met a lot of people. This was leaving Nantahala. And here's people drying their clothes. Started to get really ridiculously wet coming out of Fontana Dam. It was 5 days of just nonstop rain. Actually, I think it was 6 or 7 days of rain. But here's what I started off with. Got olive oil right here, Cliff Bars galore, oatmeal, which was in all my care packages. I had to change that up. I had this Thermarest low insulated. I think mine was a 3.5 inch. Welch's fruit snacks, peanut butter, pita bread, all of this stuff I just was absolutely disgusted with halfway through the trail and couldn't eat any more of it. And then I would pick up things like noodles out of these hiker boxes, which, God, hiker boxes had so much food. I could have literally just supplied my entire route if I just used hiker boxes. But, and then my MSR is off in the corner with my stove. My Sea to Summit bag was actually, I talked about Athena earlier, a little 18, 19-year-old. So she was a really young person starting out, had brought 4 or 5 bags. One was for her dirty clothes, one for her clean clothes. And luckily for Amicalola Falls, we had a ridge runner who's helped correct her on that and just say, there's no separation between dirty and clean clothes. So I said, well, I'll take the Sea to Summit bag off of your hands. Fontana Dam. So this is a little look at Trail Family. So Vicky's got a question. What did you do for your pain? Like knee pains and pain in your feet after a long day. Sobod Summer. And rocks and roots in Maine are a pain, as you know. Oh my God. South Maine was one of the hardest sections. Definitely. What did you do for your pain? Largely, Leave No Trace is going to shun me, but I would soak my feet in ice springs. Or if I could, I had a bladder bag starting out. I would put ice cold mountain spring water right over my feet, right over my knees, and just let it soak. I also had a aluminum canteen that I brought with me. It was a school canteen about yay big, and that was what I'd use to put under my feet, elevate my feet. Obviously, it's way too much weight, so I ended up replacing it with an algae later on. But just constantly putting water, ice water on stuff was probably the best way. If there was a lake or something, soaking it in there. Really, and then just trying to stretch. I stretched every single day, and a lot. There were a lot of issues early on with my feet in terms of blisters, but when it came to pain, I just kind of persisted through. Ultimately, I had to slow down and have a little bit more time to build up the resistance to being able to walk for that many miles a day. At the end of the trail, there just was no way to alleviate any of that pain, so you just had to deal with it. I still soaked my feet every day as much as I could, but ultimately it was just a lot. Let me see if I can. I'm doing that display capture. I'm trying to. Seems like it's chopping off my photo here. Okay. Hopefully it fixes that. And apparently I gotta go even further down. No. Oh no, it was right. I'm just looking at the screen the wrong way. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm kind of changing this up on the fly. So anyway, this girl in the middle, names evade me. I know Chicken. Chicken right here was a British ultra marathon runner. He'd actually spent a lot of his time on the trail doing 24, 48-hour hikes. Like, would just go, and you'd see him in town resting for like 3 or 4 days. It's like, who does that? Craziness, right? Obviously, Emily is also a Hawaii native, so we had a lot of talking about Hawaii and missing it. She's got her chanclas, her sandals on, which is akin to what I wore as well. I wore flip-flops for most of the time with a bottle opener, a reefer bottle opener on the bottom. Oh, I didn't know if I answered your question accurately enough. Let me see. Yeah. Yes, ultimately, you just ice it. You ice it as much as you can. If it gets to hurting too much, I just stopped. You got to stop hiking. You just take the day off. There were instances and days where I would do 6 miles, aiming for 15. But I've got some severe tears in my knees, soft tissue luckily, so they gave me another 3-4 weeks of healing to do any kind of major movement. I really thought that I was in some serious trouble coming off the trail because my feet hurt, my ankles were destroyed. I felt like my knees were slipping when I walked, so I would be trying to limp along and fall. My hips feel like they're fused for walking in a straight line for so long. My lower back has been spasming out. I would go to lift something and my knee or my back would pop. Both my torn rotator cuffs were agitated, extremely agitated. So it made it difficult really to wear things, especially a backpack. But adding that on to my pinched nerve in my neck, and it just wasn't a very good experience on the later part of the trail. I was struggling. So. But God, I love that view of Fontana Dam. This is a Fontana Dam, absolutely gorgeous, right before the Great Smoky Mountains. And as you're heading out into the Smoky Mountains, you can kind of see it goes up this really steep area. Nightmarish was something that stuck with me even now. It's only 15, 16 days after I had started the hike, and I still remember vividly having to climb up that area. So a lot of 5Ks out there. You just go up and down and up and down, but Whereas most people hated the Smokies, I really loved it for how beautiful and old world it looked. Here's one of the shelters. Um, it was insisted that you chill out in the shelters or around the shelters and designated camping sites. They didn't let you just randomly go out and camp wherever you wanted to. This is called stealth camping. This really peeved a lot of the hikers. I had no problem with it. This area is one of the most congested areas when it came to hikers. We were still in a massive bubble. A lot of the winter area had been really congested. Had really held up from some of the snowfall. So at any time you can see 25, 30, even 40 people at one shelter. So it was good they have beautiful shelters like these, huts like these. One of the things I really loved about the approach up to Klingman's is the old growth. So there are areas that just had an amazing look to them. It's like nothing I'd ever seen. There's no other areas like it. It's just beautiful. So I had another photo of old growth. So yeah, so this was just within day 16. And there's Fontana Dam from a distance. We're shooting it out of a fire tower at the top. So, funny story here. Daisy, she's 18 years old, decided for her birthday she would go and hike alone. I give mad props to women, especially strong, independent women, who go out and enjoy hiking, even by themselves. There's a lot of negativity surrounding female hikers by themselves, and she persisted. However, Klingman's Dome, there were it was ultimately 7 days of rain, and she was fortunate enough, she was nice enough to go and pick us up. So when she picked us up, there were 5 or 6 of us, including myself, Brave, Junior, and we were lucky that all of us got to go to Cece's Pizza in Gatlinburg to take kind of a 0 day, to brave out the storms. As you can see in the background here, even it's still raining. And hiker hunger kicking in. Crockett's breakfast camp was one of the best ever. And one of the big purposes of me deciding to stream today was I was going to go in and just tear apart reviews for restaurants in hopes that they can kind of get a little bit of recognition for how amazing they were. Ultimately, it was just an incredible opportunity to really try out some of the southern food. I'm fixing my stuff here. Let me turn my audio back on. So Crockett's, they served food actually in a pan. It's incredible. I loved every minute of going to that restaurant. And the portion sizes, a cinnamon bun right there, is the size of your fist. Way bigger than your fist. So, awesome. So this individual spot, Tennessee-North Carolina state line. I had visited this area before. It's at a fort, and was very excited to be back. When I was young, I think around 9 or 10 years old, my mom took me here to Klingman's Dome and to this area, to this fort, to really stand on the state line, to hang out. And I didn't understand the impact that it had at the time. Was that ultimately I would be on that same spot 20 years later, hiking the entirety of the Appalachian Trail. I loved everything about it. I pictured spotting a bear out there. I remembered vividly just looking out over the mountains and seeing that blue, that shade of blue that is so pronounced in the Great Smokies, and just thinking, wow, this is an amazing, incredible experience. And I was very lucky to be a part of it. So I'm going to come on here and essentially, oh, I think you can hear my snoring brother in the background because it's naturally what he does. So anyway, oddly enough, I'm curious as to why my resolution on my camera is not up to par, but whatever. I'll be hooking up a GoPro to it or something for 1080p. But in the meantime, I'm just going to be thankful that I had the opportunity to try and test this out. Thanks everybody who watched, and I will go ahead and hop off of here.